Helsinki, the capital of Finland, is one of the fastest-growing cities in metropolitan areas in Europe. But the city's 2050 plan, and the vision it shares with the other communities in the region, is to accommodate future growth without urbanizing any more land. Instead, growth will fill in underused areas around multiple new centers of development, supported by an extended transit network. This is a significant alternative urban growth model with much to recommend it to other places as well. Here's a view from space of the Helsinki region. Near the top of the picture, you can see the Helsinki airport, and just below it, the outer ring road. The historic center of the city is towards the bottom of the picture, on the harbor. This is the historic center of the city, built around the original harbor, with the Lutheran Cathedral, one of the city's most prominent landmarks, visible in the center of the photo. Helsinki is mainly a low-rise city, with development dominated by blocks of apartment buildings that grew up along streetcar lines. However, after World War II, the planned garden suburbs around Helsinki became famous, the best known being Tapiola, seen in this aerial photo. The town center, which you see here, was not as appealing to people in other countries as the image of white apartment towers in a forest landscape, which you can see at the edges of the photo. Like many European cities at the time, Helsinki pursued a policy of decentralization into the surrounding communities. With developments of apartment buildings in the forest, like the community of Pihlajamäki, which dates from the mid-1960s. It is reachable by bus from the highway system. Helsinki built an extensive highway system with 2 ring roads and many radials, which facilitated decentralization well beyond the historic city. Helsinki's 2050 plan is a complete reversal of this history of decentralization. Here's a close-up of the photo of Helsinki from space, cropped so you may be able to relate it to the map of proposed infill development which we are about to look at. This map, by the Helsinki Planning Department, shows 2 important ways to increase the number of people and jobs in the central part of the city. In 2008, the city moved the loading and unloading of container shipping from outmoded docks in the center of the city to a new location. This freed 250 hectares, about 618 acres, of prime waterfront land for development. Design proposals for these redeveloped waterfront areas are shown in dark brown. Another important idea is the creation of a new uptown business district at the Pasila area along the railway tracks north of the historic city center, also shown in dark brown. The lighter brown tone shows a very interesting idea. Take the highways coming into the city and replace them by boulevards, which take much less land than highways. They permit buildings to be constructed in traditional fashion right at the edge of the roadway. Here are before and after diagrams of how these new boulevard neighborhoods are similar to traditional neighborhoods in other parts of Helsinki. And, like the older neighborhoods, supported by street railways, which can be inserted into corridors after the expressways are removed. This illustration of what one of these new boulevards could look like appears more like 1950 than 2050, but that's the point. There's no reason why this older growth model should not continue to work in selected parts of the city. This is a model by Helsinki's Planners and Urban Development Department of the scope of possible development at a new uptown business center along the railroad. The proposal to permit these office towers is controversial, as this part of Helsinki has always been a low-rise area. Looking again at this map of interventions in the existing city, here is the location of the towers in Pasila, programmed for 20,000 inhabitants and 50,000 jobs by 2040. And here is the location of development at Länsi-Satama, programmed for 22,000 inhabitants and 8,000 jobs by 2030. This model gives a good idea of how the Länsi-Satama area should look at the build-out in 2030. The aerial photo gives you a sense of how development is going forward. The close-up shows you the location of the canal in the Ruoholahti neighborhood. In the background, much of the old port land is still being regraded and prepared for the new development. And this is how the Ruoholahti neighborhood looks today, a highly desirable place to live, not just accommodation for X number of new inhabitants. This part of Ruoholahti is residential, but if you look up towards the end of the canal, you can see a high-tech office building, which is an incubator for new tech industries. And this is a view of the Ruoholahti Innovation Center designed by Karva Tienen. The 2050 plan continually seeks to balance residences and jobs. The other municipalities in the Helsinki metro area are pursuing a comparable strategy of upping the density in selected areas that have good transportation, including a new center in Vantaa near the airport. This is a redevelopment proposal for Espoo, near Tapiola, just across the bridge and causeway from Helsinki. The area is already developed as a major office center. The proposal is to deck over the highway that runs through the development and build 4 new towers and a concourse system, both adding space for more jobs and making it easier to make pedestrian connections among the different buildings. This is a rendering showing the same proposal in 3D. Finally, this diagram shows how the targeted interventions throughout the city can provide the locations for projected growth of residents and jobs at densities that support a transit system. And with all of these developments completed by 2040 without urbanizing new land outside the city. Here's a question for you. Do you think the Helsinki growth model, where the new population is accommodated within the existing urbanized area, would be politically possible for the city and region where you live? Our discussion of alternative urban growth models now continues, with Larry taking you through the inspiring story of the reimagining of Portland, Oregon.